Hello, I am Kourosh Mahdavi, and this is the 5th session of our box website. Hopefully this coronavirus situation will be resolved soon, so that we can be present together. Well, we had asked you to design and model a perfume bottle for us. Now you might not have designed it yourself, and could have used ready-made models that are available on the internet or in your home. I want to quickly create a perfume bottle for you using Loft. There are many perfume bottles that I could use with extrude and revolve, but our goal is to refine the Loft. I want to have a perfume bottle that has a beige color in this shape, and I will give it a certain size. We take a large diameter, for example 200 millimeters, which is even too big. We don't even want to get it right. We say 50 is good for a small diameter, and about 25 is also fine for it. I might accidentally touch this a bit, causing our base to rotate, but to ease my mind, we can keep the coordinate center controlled, along with one of the base points, and place these on the horizontals, which will definitely align vertically. Now, regarding my section, I need a plane that is a bit higher than this. How did we create this plane? In the top plane of my geometry reference, I will define a plane at a distance of 1. We can change this later. This might be a bit much, but I think 50 is not bad for the form I have in mind. Now, in the plane I created, I want to draw my sketch. The shape it takes is up to me. I want to create a center line. It's true that I've drawn a line here. I can click on it, and from this option, it can be converted to a center line. There's also a feature here called For Construction that converts it to a center line, and vice versa. We can change it here, well, to the size of a set millimeter like. It's not bad. I suppose, well, I draw a shape just like this here, and then I simply want my relative line to be exactly perpendicular to this line. I will draw a center line above that must be vertical. Now let's set a base. For a moment. You see, this plane that I haven't highlighted, I'll explain to you how to highlight it. Look at how it's currently distorting my shape. It has no water, just an experience. Now, what I've done here is draw another center line. You can see it here, and I want this line to be tangent to this center line, which is at a perfect 90 degrees. So, I came up with such a form and drew it here. I realized that if I set it to 15 instead of 20, the shape will be similar, and I think it looks a bit cooler. What is the idea? To use the mirror to say this spill should mirror this piece. And now again, mirror these two lines to be relative to this one line. This is the kind of shape I currently have. I will come out of the sketch and highlight this plane without getting the shape involved. Alright, now let's move on to the loft. I want this line to actually connect this sketch to that sketch. So far everything is great. If this situation happens to you, we talked about it, meaning that the end of this busy section is becoming coincident with this subconscious part. So here, a twist should happen. It's better if these are in a straight line. Now, using the start and end, do I want to normalize the lower part to come up vertically? No, I don't want that. But I do find the end part interesting. How much is in our control? We can also give a number. For example, 1 and 25 isn't bad. I'll set this, and I have a form like this so far from the lower part of this form. The shining effect that is actually falling on the model, and I was finally able to open real view graphics for myself after a while. Of course, in the feature section, I left it as is because I was testing it. Now hopefully in the next video, which will be separate from our lessons, I will actually upload it for you to see how to do this. It works well with many graphics cards and is quite interesting. Okay, let's move on to the upper part. I want to make a move, which is to select this page. Then, first, let me select a page that is perpendicular to it to see what shape I want to consider for the top part. First of all, I will draw a line. I can even use the didn't see option. Ideally, I should send it from here to there, but I see that I am drawing a lot. In fact, this is the shape. I will take this and place it here. Sometimes the kids might give you an error. I have a reason. I take the point, I control it, and I also click on the end point. You see, besides the coincident that connects these two, there is also a pierce. When I click on coincident, it says that this coincident means they have come together. In fact, it makes a mistake. Not a mistake, but it has a point. It correctly states that if this is the line, since you know it is a series, it is positioned in this direction, and I have done this for you. But if I click on pierce, it attaches to the area against this line, and this is exactly what I am looking for. This is what they do for me. Now, let's move to the upper part. Let me draw a center line for you. I think it will be good. So, I will draw a spine line like this. And I want this spine line to be perpendicular to this line. If it doesn't become perpendicular, that's okay. We know another method. I can draw a center line here and say that this line and this line should be aligned with each other. That should also work, but if you are concerned, you can adjust this as well. Do this together. Well, what I drew is actually a little meme here on this page. I come here, select this line and take a convert from it to get this part. Just remember that when we are working with a feature, the sketch must be closed. Now, I want to connect these two together. Sometimes Loft cannot perform the task we want. Probably this story is well explained for me right now. This is exactly what I wanted to say. Sometimes when you see that Loft cannot do the job, you should use boundary. It's almost the same, just with some different shapes. For example, here it continues the profile direction, and that part guides it, and the direction has also changed. In this way, I say this sketch and the second sketch. Of course, I need to select the sketch from here. You can see that there is no problem. Then, the start and end parts have come here, meaning I need to say from here that this normal is in the profile. The same goes for the commands in Loft. There isn't much difference for me. I just say that my experience tells me that sometimes boundary volumes can be arranged for you that cause Loft errors. Now that we've seen that Loft has no issues We will proceed with the same loft. I will place these two in a row, starting and ending this as normal in the profile because I plan to mirror it. This side will also be normal in the profile. So far, this has been connected. Let's move on to the mirror relative to this plane. I want to select the last feature I created, which should be Loft 2, from the tree diagram, and say that I want to mirror it. I have such a form now. Let's go to the Evaluate mode and take a look at the results. We can see that the light has slid well, and it's acceptable for me. Well, of course, if you want, you can move these a bit around so that it fits better with the others. It doesn't really make a difference to us right now. For example, is this our glass profile? Does it need to be at the bottom? I mean, should this part be at the bottom? No. I want to create a strange form from it. I can see the front view. I will create a sketch and use a spline in order to achieve a shape like this. It's not bad, but let me reduce its exaggeration a little bit more. Very well. For example, what can we do with this at this point in time? In the feature, in the software, there is a command called split. You probably won't see it on your computer because I use it frequently. I taught you its shortcut, and I've placed it right here just in case you forgot. Next to the option, there is an arrow. We click on Customize. Under the commands, there is a subset of features called Split. I understood this and placed it right here. If you want all of the commands, they are each and every one of them right here. This mirror is a laser that passes vertically through that area. Horizontally, it indicates that the bodies obtained are these. Do you want both of them? Yes, I want them. If the Cut Bodies option is enabled, make sure to uncheck it. I'll tell you why. But when you say, I only want this one, not the other, it works the opposite way. It reduces that one with the surface, but I want both of them, so it's okay to check this. I don't need this line anymore, so I'll hide it. Don't delete it because it's dependent on this, I'll hide it. Now what happened? Here, a folder named Solid Bodies has opened, indicating that part number 1 and part number 2 are actually separated from each other as two different bodies. Alright, so we have this so far. Let's take an apple. That. At a certain point in time, during our collection, we actually possessed a total of 6 distinct perfumes, all of which were not yet completely empty. Okay. Now I will hide this part for now. Now we want to empty this. I click on Soft and see that now that I have 2 bodies, an option has been added here that says, first, tell me which body you want to empty. So I come here and click to select this body from here. It says, okay, I understand. Then I look through the usual states. And don't forget that you shouldn't select anything here. If you select, what have you actually done? You want to remove that surface for us. In this way, if I set the thickness to 2 millimeters and click OK, it would return this for me. I don't want it to take it away, but I want it to be empty, so I will click on this page to keep it in place. Many mistakenly select the body and everything, which you shouldn't do. Unfortunately now, the apple forgot which surface I selected, so I need to identify it again here to actually indicate that I want this body. Now that we are relieved, we can see that yes, it has been emptied. We can also temporarily view it from this section view. Yes, you are empty. Well, I will take this. Now I want to talk about that pump story. Now, I don't know what it's called. That pressure pump that pushes the limit out. We actually need to create a hole beforehand. I have my Tapo page and I want to sketch it. Well, this depends on your design. Where do you want to use it? Do we want it to be exactly in the middle, or do we want it to be a bit more to the side? Let me see. It would be nice for it to have a good shape. Here. It's also nice for a point to come here. Being in the middle isn't bad either. Let's see. The bottom is actually more attractive, but from a functional perspective, it puts the contents of the perfume under a bit of pressure, which is a common issue with all perfumes. For now, we don't want to name it. Let's fix this. I want this circle to be aligned with the center of the economy. The size we want is not the same as 120, so the number should be 20. I saw 120 at night, and the click has also weakened. How about 20? I think it was 10. So let's not waste time anymore. 15 is good. Now, as for where exactly it should be placed, I think it wouldn't be bad to have it here, for example. Now I want to cut this from the bottom, but I definitely don't want to do it in a way that ruins the bottom as well. What is the remaining task? It's that we come to the part of the design, meaning the frame section. To bring out the essence of the state, you need to extract something like this. Well, that's correct. You know it's empty inside, and there's nothing up here. The work will be done with effort, but if you want to be a bit meticulous, I suggest starting from this page and making it, for example, 30 centimeters by 3 centimeters. In fact, 30 centimeters down, and 3 centimeters is also too much. You see, it doesn't really make a significant difference. Now, regarding our hole, let's move on to giving a shape to this part. Again, I will select the top page and say that I want to sketch. I come to the offset mode and say I want a line like this from this circle. Now, one point I would like you to pay attention to here is that if we extrude it here and apply the same system again, we say we want you to extrude from this surface upwards. You see that the preview does not show me, and it takes the geometric conditions. In my opinion, the geometric conditions are really a bad thing. These should be addressed. I haven't pursued it to see what can be done, but we can change the time. What can we do? For example, I can delete this sketch and come back to the top surface. Now, until now, I mean to say that this extrude happens in the future, and now I come back to the top surface. I wish the dimensions were accurate. I was considering the previous one, thinking about how much bigger I should make it. I'll tell you what I want to do. I'll apply an offset to create a ring shape. Then I want to extrude it, starting from this plane at a distance of 2 millimeters, 1.5 millimeters. Should it merge? Yes, it should merge with this one. Okay. Now regarding what has happened in the past, let's work on something for the future. Right now, it says I have an error, and I realize it's because this plane has changed. These two are now together, and the shape's name is for now. I come here and say that this should fall. This is the section. Let me see if I can center these two together. If I look from here and it doesn't show, I can start by saying these two circles should be centered together. I can also make one of them a bit bigger. Sorry, make it bigger again. Now, here is the page where this surface is defined. I want this part to be the surface. Let's assume this page is logically and appropriately named Face 8 and 2-3. When these two are present, they separate, and this becomes, for instance, Face 8 and 2-4. Therefore, I need to reintroduce it in order to ensure that this issue is resolved. That's the story. Now, we don't know the details of what happens here, but let's also fix the pump situation right over here. For this one, let's use revolve, because I want to create a cylindrical and round shape. This leads me to find its center from here. Draw a perpendicular line. And now, of course, it should be a bit less natural so that it can move up and down freely. We need to consider a tolerance for it. However, we don't want to let it go for construction to revolve around this axis. Do you want it to revolve? No. I have something like this here to make it a bit more beautiful. Usually I see a fillet. On the top, maybe a 2 mm one, which might not be necessary for the design. I also accept a series of other structures that are around here, which now, for the sake of this, is not part of my length. There is usually a structure here that must be able to handle the mechanism so that it can easily move up and down to perform the operation of the pump for us. Yes, let's move on to a series of specific and intricate details. Furthermore, I want to create a cut surface that starts from here and elaborate on to a certain amount. Can you give me the center of this circle, which is 3/10 of a millimeter? Again on the same frank page that is in front of me. Okay. If you can't, it doesn't matter. We found a way around it. I will hide this sketch and align these two that I am seeing together to be concentric. Then I will hide that sketch again. It should have a small weak here. Of course, this pump should also have a mechanism inside it and have some curve pathways, but since I just want to create a schematic of this, I will do an export from its center to bring it forward, so we only need to see this part for a week. Let's not forget to hide this as well. Alright, let's move on to our door. Then I realized that I should have taken a shorter height. It's good that we have a tree diagram. Whenever we want, we can go back to the past, or I can shift these a bit towards the secret, or just make it smaller overall. Okay, we'll make it smaller. This rebar I did. Working without a defined measure has its own problems. So what is the issue that has arisen? It's still a problem that I haven't fully defined the work. When this is here, it won't be involved with the cut surface I've chosen, so logically, I should place it in the desired area. However, the weak we created had a full definition, but only lacked the measurement to be exactly at the center of this circle. So it was positioned correctly. Now let's move on to the door. I've placed the door here. Now, this door is currently engaged with this. What can we do? In my opinion, the best option is to perform a series of necessary cut surfaces from this part. I can definitely remove this one below. Then let's come to the top page and select it. Let's say we want to make a sketch. I want to have enough of the tar, but I also made a ring, so it should be a bit larger. If I knew the dimensions of those rings, it would have made my work easier, but it's still not a problem. We can say that we want to start from this cut surface and go inward by a certain amount. "16 and 30 are too much. This also needs to be adjusted. Let's do this. First, we will cut the surface by 2 millimeters to encompass that ring. We want to ensure that it only affects this thread, so I will make such a movement. Let's keep hammering away. I'll break it again if we had gone forward with a precise opinion on the air. Then all this trial and error wouldn't have been necessary. It wouldn't hurt if it were smaller. For example, this time. And the size of the cylinder can also be made smaller. We won't take issue with that. Now, let's return to our work. From this vertical page, which we call the top page, I want to make a sketch. The circular sketch is a bit larger, for instance, this much larger than the pumping cylinder, I mean. Is that amount? Okay. I think it's good to cut the extrude, but just take this into account, meaning that this cylinder might not be there at some point. Now, what happened? Let's take a moment to look at it. When I apply the biosection, I see that yes, it is exactly placed inside this. It would be better to give that area a filter to make it smoother. In fact, my door has now taken this shape. When we want to take a render, we see a scene like this. This line is not very clear. If we want this line to be completely clear and distinct, since these are two separate bodies, we can apply a fillet to either the lower or upper part. This is currently the upper part that has been selected. I won't apply a fillet to the lower body later on. You can apply a very small fillet, like 2 millimeters, 1 millimeter, or 0.5 millimeter to the upper part as well. But now, if we take a look at it, we can see that the line has become clearer. Of course, I should mention that to avoid any drop in quality, it would have been better to create a very general softening throughout our work. But for now, we have worked to this extent. Okay, let's go and add some details to it. The first detail is that I need to create a small path. In the front view, I clearly want to see the hidden lines by using a spline so that I have a path like this, and that is clear. In fact, this is my path. We learned that we can now use sweep. With a circular profile that has a size of 2 millimeters, maybe 1 millimeter would be good for it. Do you want to merge this? No. I will remove the merge piece. When something is done together, it seems to become much more natural. I will also give it a slight adjustment. And with this condition, if this part wants to be removed, it needs to be very fine, about 1/10 or 2/10. I will also apply it to the top so that you don't notice it. Additionally, we need to specify what the material will be like. Is it going to be all glass? This will actually show our work more. If I change the transparency, we can see that it really improved the shape. Let's say we produce this and sell it. What else can we do? We have just a large amount, but let's put some poppy seeds in it. First, we need to create a mixture inside it. So, there are 2 new commands that I need to perform for you right now, but it's not a bad opportunity to do them. I want this perfume container of mine to be filled up to this point, so I will uncheck the merge box, and I actually created a large box like this. Before I perform my operation, there is a command called move or copy, which is not normally visible. You see the insert feature for move or copy that I taught you. We find the move or copy feature from the customize commands. Here it is. The next image is a combine that we want to work with. Since I use them a lot, I left it here to stay, like scale. Now maybe it will come in handy later. The first thing I want to do is take a copy of this lower object. It asks if I want to check copy. When I try to copy it with a gap, I say no. I want it to be exactly in place. It gives me the option to continue without any rotation or anything. I say yes, so now I have another body down here. Now, using Combine, we have the subtract option, which subtracts one object from another. It also has a shared state where you use the subtract state. It asks what the main body is. For example, I say this one is large. It asks what you want to subtract from it. I say this body is okay, and when I click it, I get a message. When does this message come? It says that now your object has turned into 2 objects, and asks which one you want to keep. If we were professionals, we would say the internal one, but since we don't know these things, we don't want to complicate it for you. We say we want the joint. Give us the joint. Now, what has happened? Let me hide the actions we've done. These 2 remain, and it seems like this laser has separated from one. It asked the same thing again, and now I have 2 bodies. I don't want this large one. I can hide it, or delete it. To delete, just right-click on the Stable Bodies folder in the tree diagram and select Delete. You can either keep it or delete it. This will be deleted and recorded as a command in the tree diagram. What remains is a smaller volume from our main body. Of course I know here because I kept that copy. Here, I mentioned to take a copy of the first one. The transparency effect has disappeared, so I right-click again. It's okay, I will make this one transparent. We can see that this is actually the same material that is placed here from key to key. We can even say that our material can also have a transparency effect, making it look much more natural and beautiful. I'm going to save it up to this point. So we have modeled something together. Later, we can work on it when we get to the rendering lesson. Now, the main story we want to work on today is assembly. So why have we spent all our time on modeling? Well, modeling is the part where the entire essence of our story is based. And of course, this is the place where, by itself, it has no value until you bring the models you create here over there. I saved this and will let it stay so you can see when we want to work. Then we will combine the objects we created in the assembly section, but right now we don't have any objects. I will use this one I created later. In the advanced mode, we want to do two very simple tasks in normal mode. I want to quickly create a few models with you. The 200 cm width and 100 cm height would be great if we could have a cavity with water on top. This would also be a stub that rises up to the size of a palm. I will make it a single piece to ensure it is complete and functional. I will fix this and name it, for example, the main part, and give it a suitable and descriptive name, such as the main component or primary section. Then, afterwards, I will proceed to initiate another new one once more. This time I want to change some numbers. Let's subtract a circle from 210 by approximately 90. I remember it was 50. And now we set it to 51 for the height, which is currently, as of now, in total. Let's not spend too much time on the 40. Now, I will name this the second part. Very well. Now we enter the assembly environment. It opens a new file. The assembly environment indicates that if you currently have a file open, it will see the surrounding glass. Well, I don't want this. It says, if you have it open, understand that it's here, but I don't want to update it. I find my main part and place it here. This will be positioned as part B, and it doesn't seem to have the capability to be manipulated. Of course, we can right-click on it and select float to make it movable, but for now, we won't deal with that. I want to tell you that the first file we bring in usually gets fixed and remains stable. From this section, we no longer have features. The assembly section says to insert components. You can enter the next component, which I will call part again. I have been very careful with the dimensions. It's not a problem, in fact it's better, because we can edit them. Now, one point we have here is that in the assembly environment, as I mentioned, these do not have any specific correlation with each other. Each of them goes back to its root, and I can right-click on them, for example, selecting Open Part. Now, if I filter this section and press Ctrl+Tab to return to the assembly environment, you can see that this change has occurred here, but this is only for the purpose of assembly. Now, why did I say that it was a good thing this happened? Do you see how much the size of this was? the main part. How much was it? It was 30 and 20. Well, I made a mistake. I can easily come here and quickly open the same file, and efficiently. Let me say that this extrusion I did is not 210, it's 300, and one is not 90, it's 190. If we go back to my decision, we see that yes, its size is like that one, but our circle is not. Now, I haven't edited the circles, just where something is misplaced, I wanted to let you know. We want to call it, which is essentially, in essence, or more precisely, as we might say, in our terminology, a patch. I can click on this cylinder or this circle to select it in a concentric state. First, if I don't click and say the next relation or the next mate, this one is a cylinder. Since it recognizes the surfaces, it says that I see two cylinders. Do you want to make them concentric? I say yes, or normally I would click on concentrate, then I would select one. Let's do this again, meaning I would say I want this cylinder to be concentric with this other cylinder. You see, the operation was performed. The only thing is that they are now concentric. No matter what I do, these two circles won't separate from each other, but we know there is no up or down. So why is there an up and down? There are two reasons. First of all, I give the mate again and say, I want the bottom of this to be coincident with the upper surface. This is okay. Now what happened? That surface is reached. It is concentric, but it can't move up and down anymore. Yes, it can't move up and down anymore. The point is that it is rotating, because I can choose the second and third states and say that this surface should be parallel to another one. When this one is parallel to that one, it will not change at all. Now, what is the issue in the work? Well, this circle is much more stretched than the other one, but the cylinder has accepted that they can go inside each other. So what can we do? First, I must definitely save the assembly, because we have an option that allows us to click on this body instead of opening it to edit it. If I click here, it says that your assembly must be saved. I say, okay, let's save assembly 3 so that all objects are updated. Now, it will make some items transparent so that the topics do not overlap, and it will also highlight this one in blue, indicating that I want to work on this. I say yes, this extrusion I have done. Now I can see a circle here and say that the size was 5 and 1, and if it was too small, I can delete its dimensions and say that I wanted sizes like this. I can actually even explain why I placed this saw, smaller and larger sizes here to make changes. But now we have basically done it on the circle, so we don't have this problem anymore. If we want to edit this saw, you have learned that I can click on the object and say cut, and Navid was a mistake. This was the base, and it wasn't 310, it was 300. The edit is done right here. Whenever I'm done with my work, I remember to click on the Exit Edit Part option to come out. This way, we can mate our items together and assemble them. Of course, we have many options when mating. Whenever you see any of your mates, look here in the tree view. You said these two became concentric together, then this base stuck together. In fact, I can say these two surfaces should become parallel. I can either edit it or delete it. I can right-click on it and select the Delete Item option, or use the keyboard. It has a variety of 9 options. So, this is actually still about how to work with surfaces. These two are not parallel to each other. Now, let me teach you something. When I was joining these two surfaces together, I might want the bottom of this to stick together from the inside in the opposite way. We have the flip option that allows these two to stick together in this manner. Of course, this is not a reasonable situation right now, because two solid bodies cannot go inside each other. However, if you happen to encounter a situation where you are trying to join them from the other side, you can use the flip option to reverse it. We can create an angled shape, and we have the might option that connects two cylinders together. Let me just build this. I will delete it and create a new one, a cylinder the size of a set. I will extrude it and take a save of part 11, which is okay. Let's go back to the name Willy. I want to bring in the same part 11 that I just created. The first thing I do is want to glue the bottom of this to this surface. Well, this glue, Willy, I want to avoid making it shiny. And now I want this surface to be centered with this surface. So what happens now? Let's see. Move can no longer go left and right more than this. There are many things that can be done in an assembly, but for now, focus on learning these tasks very well. I also wanted to mention that in might, there are many different options available. For example, we can specify the angle, set a specific distance, and the advanced and mechanical options are very attractive, which we will definitely refer to when we get to it. Now, we refer to this as a regular assembly. There is another option I want to close. Well, you saw that this assembly had some issues, where I kept going back to the previous file to see if it was done, how much it was, and I would write it down on paper to apply it again. But now, imagine if I wanted to create all these parts separately. Could I really align this glass exactly along this? That would be very difficult, or how much this pipe would come out without hitting the glass. I built all the objects and bodies in one part, and I know their sizes are the same and correct. I saved it. Now, what I do is right-click on the Solid Bodies folder, and we have an option called Save Bodies. I want to save these bodies separately. Well, why can't it do this last one? Ah, this is the sign. This is a very important point. Here, there are some items that you cannot use in Windows. If I click on Save Bodies again, I can select each of them individually, or select them from the tree diagram, or I can click on the floppy disk option. Now you see that it didn't give me any errors regarding the Persian font or symbols that may not be suitable for naming in Windows, such as slashes or question marks. We should not use these as the software has already addressed them. But if there were errors, we need to remove them. For example, there was a slash here, and I removed it. I have a Create Assembly option, and I want to open an assembly. In that document, I want to have a folder named Address, and my assembly name to be H-Assembly. Now, what happens? When I click OK, it saves all these bodies as a separate part. By pressing Ctrl-Tab, it opens the assembly for me. What's the difference? Right now, I've brought these items one by one with the Insert component, so I'm relaxed knowing they are in their place. I don't need to use the Might tool. The only thing that happens is that they don't move on the board. We have to right-click and hit float, and we can see that it has now floated. If I click on one of them, it has a fixed position. This is something we worked on in the last session, where we can move them around. But how do we place this one back in its position? Assuming we centered these two? Fortunately, the rest of the items are fine. This is the animation page, and luckily we have an option where we can say File. When I click Yes, its name is Explode Cut. Here, from the tree view of the file, which contains the pages, I can use it to say that the front page of this part should stick to the front page of this other part, and it sticks. I hit OK. I say the top page should stick to the top page of this. It's done. And now the right page needs to stick to the right page of this. Let's go back to where we started. Now, we will perform some actions in the animation. It doesn't require much work if you want to create an animation where a door goes up or a pump moves up and down. We can use that. An animation has its own story, but the main question is what traditional research is about. Here we have an option called Explode View, which is the explosive view. I can click on the objects one by one to bring this example up. I just need to delete one that I didn't want to bring up for a moment. This post differs from your version. I need to press Done in normal mode. Now I can say this one should come up this much, for example. Sometimes I don't know how it is for you, but it automatically presses Done. This glass, of course, is not made this way. It must have been assembled from somewhere, but we are just showing a schematic. This should not be included as a material in our assembly, but let's allow it to be there for now. I know it's not the area, but let's imagine that one of our shapes gets a bit messy. I'm going to go down and hit Done. Now, as for my Explode view, where did it go? In one of the tabs here, there's the option for Explode View. Whenever I right-click on it and select the Collapse option, if I point it out correctly, you'll see that it goes back to the original Explode state, and it also has an animation state. If I set it to Animate Explode, it rearranges these items in the same order I progressed. We can also get an output from it, either an AVI output or an MP4 output. This is also the sidebox screen, which saves this page. However, the Voodoo version is a 600 render, which is much more natural and animated. These frames, we'll talk about later, but we need to get a little familiar with them. Conversely, yes, when it reaches the end, it should start again, with its speed increasing and decreasing. Start gathering it again, in just any way you want. Well, that's that. I think it wouldn't be bad for this session. The task I want you to do for the next session is a bit simpler. And maybe some of you have already done a little bit of it. Create a chessboard, which is obviously a large page with a lot of squares, 8 by 8, and with all the pieces. Of course, there might be too many pieces. Just look at the pawns. There are 16 of them. In fact, one piece is set up at that time. You can use Insert Component for this. By the way, now that you've come this far, let me tell you. If I hold the control and move this, it will copy it by dragging. We can either do this, or we can use Insert Component and bring them in one by one from where we just saved this file. In fact, you create a pawn, then you either copy it or keep inserting it again. You have a pawn, a rook, a knight, a bishop, a king, and a queen. We don't want to focus too much on the design right now, but of course, if you do this, you'll enjoy having a suitable chessboard with unique pieces that you designed yourself. Later, you can have it made with CNC or even 3D print it, which is a nice keepsake for the work you've done. One by one, you can take these pieces and attach them to the board using mate. You can also create a position in chess where, for example, the pawn has moved forward and the bishop has come to the side of the king, or even two pieces have moved to the left side of the board or are bent over and fallen. These actions will make it look a bit more natural. We want you to play a little with mate, so you get the hang of it. Send it to us once you've done it. Let me tell you one more thing at the end. When we use the save body method and bring these into this section, if we open the part, it won't show us the tree structure of the operations we've performed. However, from this point on, we can make any changes we want, such as increasing the size by 1 millimeter. You see that it gets added, but the rest is no longer visible. So make sure to keep all your work in that main master file. You can see that it has formed as a game seal here. Whatever we do, we need to ensure that all our parts are updated. In the end, thank you, and see you in the next session.